We don't know. We don't need to know. How did they do it, Jack? The demigods, yeah, who knows, yeah. Well, they were very powerful. They had some powers that we don't know about even. But yet, they never existed. We say the same about them. So the point. So there's a very powerful battery in there in ourselves. So we have a person. I mean, to be honest with you, I've talked to an awful lot of people, and they don't know who they are. They don't know why they're here. They have some vague kind of understanding of what the spiritual world is like, and they kind of drift out with their own space. It's like this, or maybe it's like it's whatever. Is that? Yeah, but the picture here is crystal clear. But the only problem is we don't take the time to learn it. We don't take the time to read the Bhagavad Gita every day. And then what do? We drift off into a kind of a semi-oblivion, a kind of a dreamlike state, in which we get up from bed, we wake up in the morning and go down on breakfast with coffee, oh yeah, what's the newspaper? Oh yeah, we kind of drift along in that kind of a way. I'm speaking for myself there. Well, if anybody can identify with it, that's okay too. But the fact is unless we're actually crystal clear, unless we're actually, tuned in to what's actually going on, we're going to miss everything. We're going to miss a lot. At the point of death, we're going to be still in a haze, As devotees, we actually need to be crystal clear when we're leaving this body. Where at a time when we may be in great pain. So how are we going to be in that state at that point? Can anyone answer that question? Answer? Johnny? What? That's not the answer. She's been cynical. No, because we'll need devotees around us. We'll need our spiritual friends around us at that point, so that they're constantly chanting. Because the pure light of God at that point go on to the spiritual dimension, and that's very spoken about here in chapter 8. Taking the spring, it's called. So don't be. I'm also speaking for myself here, but I'm saying this very clearly. We have to be very serious. This is the most serious thing. Because then we'll become attracted to this hazy world in our hazy way. We'll think that this place is okay. Who am I voting for in the next election? What about Brexit? How am I bearing at all at the point of death? I was in a situation one time with one of my good friends was leaving her body, and we went and visited her in St. Vincent's Hospital. And I remember she was telling us she had the type of hepatitis which, if they weren't able to fix it in the next few days, she was going to leave. She was going to die. And because she was telling us that she knew it, and she's a devotee, and she said, well, if they can't work out what's happening, it's curtains. That's what she said. It's curtains for me. And that's the phrase, the way she said it, because you often hear about curtains where people say that when it's the end, But the way she said it, she knew it, and wow, it was pretty heavy. So I remember as we were leaving the ward, I heard this sound. Now I don't know if most of you are very pure, but it was. I'm gonna hum this sound. I'm gonna hum this. It goes da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Yes, you got it. Is that famous long running for 50 years? It's called Coronation Street. It's been on the television and it's probably not as popular anymore actually. That shows you where I'm from, but it's a soap that went on for 40 or 50 years, and people identify with the people in the soap. And I just thought that if you're about to leave your body and you're wondering what's the next edition of that going to be, can you imagine how absurd that is? How absolutely horrible that is. Even worse, if your team is in the semi-finals of the Champions League, or if India have reached the semi-finals of the World Cup, and you've only got 2 days left to live, how much attention are you going to put onto that match? Think about it. Okay, well, I'll give you the reality. How much attention, I will put myself in this as well, am I giving to that match now? Do you know? I'm going to die, and yet I'm worrying about something which is totally irrelevant. That shows you how attached we are to this material world and to this material surroundings. That just shows us. We all have our own version of that, but we are all very attached. So Bhagavad Gita is meant to detach us from those things, do you know? We should, Krishna calls it the weapon of attachment. We should cut down this forest. That was the verse I read at the start of 3 and 4. Therefore we must seek that place from which one goes when never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Person, from whom everything began, and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Yeah. So we must learn how to detach ourselves from the material world. Does that sound painful? To detach ourselves? Death is pretty painful as well. That's going to force us, totally against. We don't want to go. Most people don't want to go. Even people who find out that they've got 3 months left to live, they want to live their lives to the full for the last 3 months. Do you know? That's how illusioned we are. We think we can enjoy here. We cannot enjoy here. But thankfully, Krishna consciousness is ever joyful. Activities in Krishna consciousness are extremely joyful. Is there any scholar among us can say a verse? I'll give a hint, it's from the 9th chapter. I know a few verses, not that many, but I know a few. From the 9th chapter, which tells us that our life here can be both very, 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 very enjoyable, and at the same time, we'll go back to the spiritual world. Isn't that a good deal? Krishna's giving us a good deal. And He's giving us the greatest deal. But all He's asking is for our attention. That we pay attention. Do you ever hear that in class? Pay attention. The teacher's always trying to get the student to pay attention because the student is always going off. So some of our devotees next week, they're going to a seminar in our beautiful temple in Radhadesh, and it will be about the chanting of Hare Krishna. And this is a very valuable thing to do, to take the time out to study, to learn how to pay attention. Because Krishna appears in the form of the holy name, and therefore we need to be able to concentrate on the holy name. And then we'll pay attention to Krishna. Because Krishna's here with us at this very second. Can you understand that? Krishna's actually here at this very, very second, and He's asking us to pay attention. It's one of the most important things, but it's simultaneously hard and easy. It's both. It's easy to pay attention, but our mind is flickering. But the mind is constantly flickering. But let's not worry about that now. While we're talking and talking about spiritual subject matter, let's just keep our attention fixed. That's why we read Bhagavad Gita every day, because I can guarantee you will get absorbed in it after a little while. Even if you don't initially, you will after a little while. It's like an oasis in the day. If you can read 2 chapters, only 10 minutes, but it's an oasis. You'll hear Krishna speaking very slowly to you, very powerfully to you, and then Krishna will speak to you or speak to us during our daily activity as well. He'll give us some indication how to act, how to stay in God consciousness. He will prompt us from within. From me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. Krishna doesn't push us, like he's not like a teacher who's got this stick he's going to beat us over the head. He gives us our I must be talking about another age there, teachers with sticks. I don't think they do that anymore. They used to when I was younger anyway. But Krishna says he gives us the choice. So the choice is now. From 1 second to the next, from this very second, he's giving us a choice to pay attention. That's amazing, isn't it? It's our choice to do that. And he recommends that we get together and we speak about these subject matters as often as possible. And we have different people speaking as well, you know. And that's why we have different speakers here as often as possible as well, because they're all giving a different angle of vision. And all of us here in the room should become speakers as well, you know. After we read Bhagavad Gita, we should speak it. We should speak it to others, and we should give it to others. We should look for every opportunity, because that's the only lack in the world. This information is not being broadcast. Every other, probably something that's usually wrote down, but every other than, you know, knowledge, so-called knowledge, is being used or is being given in this world. Every so-called bit of useless knowledge is being promulgated. But you know, this information is not being disseminated very widely. So it is up to us to actually to do that, to become realized ourselves as much as we can, become realized, and then speak it to others. Because when we speak it to others, we actually go on to a certain vibration, a certain energy, and Krishna is there. Krishna actually descends in those situations. Do you know? Krishna actually is present, which is incredible. God is in the spiritual world. He's the most amazing personality. But when we speak about him, he actually is here. Right away, Krishna's here. But we have to become trained to see him. Our eyes have to become trained in knowledge to see what's going on. So it's a tremendous opportunity to become self-realized and to experience genuine happiness. Real happiness. It's not the happiness that you get, and I'm going to go through a few different types of happiness here. Has anyone here had a new car? Or got a new car? I got a new car. Oh, I can. Well, you know, yeah. Like even a second-hand new car. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to say that you have to buy a new car. I'm not advertising anybody to buy a new car. But like, you start to drive the first driving. Yeah, this is really good. Oh, your gears are going up. You know, there's a certain happiness that you get from that. You know, and it lasts for a little amount of time. But then eventually it becomes a little older, and it's not such a new car. Like even in a new car, so many people, you see some people look over at your new car, and you feel, oh, they looked at my new car. You know, this is the kind of this is the kind of what's called this kind of happiness that's there. Do you know? But that kind of happiness is as a beginning and an end. And then if somebody happens to drive into your new car and bash it, you know, then you feel, oh, I like your car. That's happened to me. No, actually, somebody didn't drive into me. The last van that I had, it was a little higher up than my previous van, so I couldn't see underneath it. So I was parking in this place. It was a place in County Cork, a place called Fermoy. I was outside a pharmacy, and they don't like people driving up the path, so they have these silver pylons up there, you know, but they're quite low. You can see it from a car, but I couldn't see it from my van. I just got my new van, so I was just kind of going to park in on the path. I went, oh no, my new van, you know. So, and then a worse sound than that is the sound when you're just trying to pull out from it again. It goes, you know, and so that's me under stress. So that type of happiness is not the type of happiness I'm talking about anyway. And the lucky thing is that not the distress we feel as well. So it's a good deal. But it's the happiness from having chanted your rounds for many years. It's the happiness you feel that when you've performed your spiritual life on a daily basis for many years, and you get up the next morning and you will chant as well. It's that of real happiness and contentment on Bhagavad Gita, and you get a real contentment in your soul feels it's free, and it is a happiness that you feel in the association of devotees when you can reveal your mind to somebody and they reveal their mind back. You know, it is the happiness you feel when somebody gives you some Krishna conscious gift. Even an ordinary gift, you can feel happiness, but a spiritual gift. It's the happiness you feel when you take initiation from a self-realized soul, and he takes away your karma forever. You know, all your previous karma. It's the happiness that you feel when you do some service to Krishna, and you know Krishna is happy with what you've done because your spiritual mentors have told you this is very good, well done, well done, well done. These are spiritual. This is spiritual happiness, and it's something which we aspire for and we try to learn. We in spiritual life, it's like the techniques of spiritual life. They're the same techniques in every spiritual system. Even a throwback to Christianity, I remember my aunt would bring me to Mass in Mount Argus. It's in the kind of Kimmage direction. And I remember her energy. Her energy was always very, very, every day, and you know, she used to live a very, very, very pious life, and she would always think of God. And you know, that kind of energy is contagious. You know, if it works, it acts, and it's kind of something which we should all try to. It's an energy which we should all try to vibrate on, because it's doing good to the planet. Whereas I said earlier on that, you know, our effect will never be there in over one lifetime, maybe 2 lifetimes or whatever. No one will remember us. But the reality is that if we act properly in this world, we can have a very powerful effect on this planet, even now. If we actually can learn how to live our lives in a proper way, in the spirit, in this material world, and invoke the spiritual world while in the material world, that will give the greatest amount of people a guide for us how to live in this world and how to give real peace in this world. The formula for peace is in this book. It's found in other spiritual systems, but it's powerfully found in this book. And if we can learn to live our lives according to it, we can actually instruct people as well. We can give people how to live. But as regards this knowledge and how it gives happiness, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitrami Damutamam Pataksavagamam Dharanyam Shushukam Kartamam. This knowledge is the king of education. It is the most secret of all secrets, purest knowledge. And because of perception of the self by realization, it is the perfect religion. Everlasting, and it is, what's the last word? It is joyfully performed. So, this world doesn't mean that we don't have a great time. We have a fantastic time. It's a brilliant time. This is the best, this is the way we should live our lives. This is how we can be the most happy. And Krishna is giving us all information. It's the most confidential knowledge, but it's an open secret. You know. So we can be carriers of this secret. We can have it chanting Hare Krishna, even on the street. here is going to do that, but it's the greatest joy. Watching my friends in Leicester Square last night, and they were dancing in ecstasy, and people were taking photographs everywhere. Like there were literally thousands of people there. I was there a few weeks ago, and one person came up to me. She just happened. She's from Newcastle. She said, "Oh, we're just down in London to have a good time for the week, but we wouldn't miss this for anything. This is the best time we have." Well, there's somebody's coming down for trying to enjoy the big lights of London, but they're coming down for this enjoyment as well. So gradually, she'll realise that this is there's even more enjoyment to be had here. So this is why the devotees they go out and they do this kirtan, because the kirtan gives great relief to the living entities, even unbeknownst to them. Death. This chanting could help every person who hears it at the point of death. That's why we do it. We go out. Someone goes, "Oh, you're mad. How come you're mad? We go around dressed like that." No, what we're doing is we're trying to help. We're trying to give the sound vibrations to the people at the point of death. That's the only reason we're doing it. And also our friends in New York, literally they started probably about 10-15 years ago, just going out and in one of the it's a place called Union Square. It's one of the subways. It's the third busiest subway in New York, and every day for the last 10-15 years they're constantly chanting from 11 in the morning till 7 at night. So literally hundreds and thousands of people in New York, they hear this vibration. They don't, they understand it, but they're being purified. And actually now, they've started to give out more books on the literature there than any other place in America. So people are just coming and taking the books and trying to find out what this is about. So that this message, if we continue with it, if we persist with it, it would start to happen here in Ireland as well. We won't just have our small centre in Abbey Street, but we'll have a bigger centre outside Dublin. We'll have, many other temples. Like we were in Galway yesterday. About 100, little over 100 people came. India were playing Afghanistan in cricket, so not as many people came from the Indian community. But still, we had a beautiful time there. Our guest speaker who was here on Friday night, Abhishek, was chanting like his heart out. It was so beautiful. He was singing incredibly, and the people were all joining in and dancing, and we had some wonderful prasadam. Amanda Vikram cooked a beautiful prasadam, and some of the people there cooked, and we set up the sound system, and we just kept on playing, and people loved it. I mean that was like it was a temple. But maybe it was only for a few hours, And yesterday in Grand Canal Square, there's so much prasadam giving out, so much tea, and the yoga center, everything was going on as well. What was it?
Yogi tea.
Yoga tea.
Yeah,
the tea was fabulous. So, these are kind of temporary situations, but the more that we continue to chant, the more then that people will be able to will actually be uproarious and will reach the spiritual world, and therefore this veil of suffering that's here in the material world is called. There's a whole valley of tears will be dried up by the joy that comes from the chanting of the holy names, and the world will become joyous when people hear this chanting. So I'll stop there and thank everybody for coming here, for participating in the whole yoga. This is like a yoga. It's a Vedic yoga whereby we speak about the sound of the scripture, and we chant the holy names, which we will do in a few minutes, and therefore we also do another thing. It's just that we can give any reflections or any questions. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask, or anything that they picked up from what I said here today? Is there anything stuck in your mind? Say if you were just going out the door and somebody said, What was that guy talking about in the last hour? What would you say? Is there anything? Yeah?
I've seen recently, we are all working in IT or basically offices and stuff, and recently there's a surge in mindfulness and having a wellness program. We can, not in the religion and meditation. I think we can, with that we can include. We make it a part of even our working life.
Very, very good. Because I know in some of our centres in America that a lot of the days don't come around and it works really well. People just plan with you. Anybody was talking about that maybe afterwards. Right. Anything else? Anyone wants to add anything else?
Been for quite a long time about people being individual but not affecting anyone else. But we may say that, well, actually, they are by their energy and by their interactions and by, how society is influenced by each other. We influence each other, whether we understand that or not. Can you maybe say something about this extreme individuality, which has become seems like floodgates are open to absolutely, if you want to be a flower pot, that's fine, I accept you as a flower pot, great,
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that's actually funny. That's one of the reasons why I chose this verse. And we're at a yoga center on Friday. I was giving a talk to different people at the yoga center. This was one of the things which came up, is that who are we? Are we individual? Or are we soul? Or are we part of God? Or are we God? This is a major problem and difficulty that people don't they don't understand that, this is what Bhagavad Gita actually really deals with this very well, because people are individual but they have their own conception. What you're talking about there is ego. Ego is described very clearly in Bhagavad Gita. Generally, people are saying that this is me, I can do what I want, it's my life, I can do what I want. Basically, that's what they say. And the reason they're saying that is that they think that they're this one life. They have a complete misconception of who they are. Like, it's the same thing they will say, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we'll die. In other words, I only have this life in which I can enjoy, so I have to enjoy it to the maximum. And even if it hurts others, and because of ignorance, they don't know that they are hurting others. Like, for instance, they might eat animals. And enjoy, it's me, I need to enjoy, but they're hurting the other living entities, or hurting the other living entities in that situation. Or, as you said, that they're trying to be something like, I don't want to get into very much into specifics here because it's okay. You want to be a flower pot. Shani's being kind of, what's that called? Politically correct. It's like, it's a misconception of who we are. And that's the problem. And that's why it's so vital that we read Bhagavad Gita every day. I keep coming back to this point. Unless we read it every day, we'll become flower pots. Even if we study Bhagavad Gita for a while, if we don't study it every day, we'll gradually drift from proper consciousness. You know what that is? That is wasting time. That means we have to go into another body, because we've wasted the valuable time in this body when we could be self-realized, and we're just drifting into an illusion or other. We can't afford to do it. It's only at the point of death you'll realize, oh, I wasted my life. We don't want to be like that. And as I said, it's not some sort of mental. It's something that we do every day. We practice every day, and almost automatically, that's proper use of individuality. Do you know what I mean? That's really how you understand who you are. It's proper use of individuality by surrendering to God. And that's the point of this whole verse. God is the supreme, we're the part. We serve God, self-realized than the real self is. The self that you're talking about there, the rugged individual. How rugged can you be? Pushed by a car and seconds. Do you know? How rugged will you be then? You know, how rugged the point of death in your hands, and you know, there's this all these different sometimes you have all these different all these different machines, life support system, you know. How rugged can you be then? You can't. You're totally covered by the material world, you know. So your individual is going to be no good at that point. But if you understand your real individuality, and see, this is the interesting thing. They're not wrong, you know. They're not wrong in the sense that they're individual. But how they're expressing their individuality is illusory. They're identifying with something which is temporary and illusory. They think that that's them. So the whole message of Bhagavad Gita is to identify with your eternal self. You actually are. And in that way, it's a brilliant feeling. It's a brilliant feeling. You know, we get it by when we're enchanting, when we're in bliss, we get it when we're hearing directly from the scriptures. We get it when we're taking some wonder. And John's wife is Pushpa is a wonderful cook. She's not here today though. That's the thing. But we have an equally wonderful cook, I'm sure. So, but through tasting wonderful prasadam, you know, it's even if it doesn't taste as good as it's the feeling that you get when somebody has offered food with love to God, feeling the stage which you put through the whole day. Well, that's the joys of prasadam. So that's the individuality, Shanti, in that sense. We have to accentuate that individuality. And the other individuality, we have to see it for what it is. It's the genuine cry in the soul that they're individual, but they're putting it through the wrong prism in a distorted way. And I'm individual because I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing the other. You know.
So our individuality is part of the entire by our.
Very good. Yes, exactly. That's what it is. Yeah. Krishna speaks about it in the 5 different coverings: earth, water, fire, air, ether. The physical self. And subtle is the mind. I think I'm here, I want to go this, I want to do this. The mind is always drifting. The instinct is, I want to hear about spiritual subject now. And ego, which is even subtle. But beyond that then is the soul, that's who we are. So we're constantly trying to access the soul, even though and Bhagavad Gita is clear. Modes of nature, good and ignorance is coming through all the time. Sometimes we're feeling elated, sometimes we're feeling just, sometimes we're feeling this. This is the energies that's going through us. We have to become detached from those energies and realize our spiritual nature, which is beyond. And the reason we're beyond is because God is beyond those energies. So therefore, when we can serve God, then we also can go beyond. Maybe one last question, if anyone else wants to ask or add anything else. Amanda, are we downstairs? Are we nearly ready?
Yeah.
Oh, John.
The cook.
How's it going, John? Okay. So now we have some wonderful kirtan. So thanks everybody for listening. What are the 2 things I said? What's the most important thing is to read Bhagavad Gita every day. Okay. And the most important thing is to and the 10 is read Bhagavad Gita. Is the chant Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you.